Hello, friends. Welcome back to Midnight Horror Picture Show. Last year, I created this podcast as a way to keep in touch with other filmmakers, authors, and artists I've met and start building a platform to highlight these brilliant creators. Especially since I knew I wouldn't be doing any travel to festivals with a new baby. I had big ambitions and a very limited understanding of how much I could reasonably accomplish once Juniper was born. But I was able to record 8 interviews, and I got 7 of them out before the end of the year. Today's episode is the final one from last year's recordings, but we have a lot more in store for this year and beyond. Mariel Sharp is the founder and lead producer at True Sweetheart Films, an independent production company dedicated to boundary-pushing cinema by women and LGBTQ+ creators. With a deep expertise in both creative and logistical execution, she has produced 2 award-winning feature films and 12 short films, securing funding from prestigious organizations like the SODEC, Telefilm Canada, and the Canada Council for the Arts. Her films have screened at over 100 international festivals, earning 11 nominations and 8 awards, with critical acclaim from The Guardian, The New York Times, IndieWire, and The Hollywood Reporter. She oversees all aspects of production, from development to post, and her work is showcased on platforms like Shudder, Prime Video, and iTunes. I'm excited to share my conversation with today's guest, Mariel Sharp. All right, Mariel Sharp, welcome to the Midnight Horror Picture Show. We're so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So you have a pretty big resume compared to some of the other people we've had on so far, especially when it comes to production. You co-directed the shorts Monster Dyke and Don't Text Back with Kay Adelaide, who we had on the show previously. And you are, well, first off, let's just start with what got you into filmmaking?
I mean, such a great question. I always was a movie lover from a very young age. Like, I was a 90s kid, and so our main source of entertainment was like going to garage sales and picking up just like bulk old cardboard boxes of VHSs, and I would just compulsively watch all of them, and like no preference for genre or quality or anything, and I just loved watching movies. And so but I didn't see myself necessarily being into it, like becoming a filmmaker. It just felt so far away, and I never thought that that could be something I could do. And initially I wanted to be a writer because I love telling stories, but then in college I was able to take some media classes, and then like I started to realize like it might actually be possible to pursue this. So yeah, it was very natural. I feel like it's just a natural progression toward making the thing that I loved watching.
Absolutely. And I've heard that, like, it's part of my personal story as well, but I've heard that from most of the people I've talked to, where it's really just a passion for storytelling,
Yeah.
And some want to start out as writers or comic book artists or not, novel writers. And it comes together where, well, it's a passion for movies and a passion for storytelling. And if that's the route that you can take, or if you have a specific vision, like visual, it seems like such a natural progression to get into filmmaking, which is great. So one of the things, and we just talked about this off camera, but you have served as a producer on like how many films now?
I think maybe 15.
15. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So served as a producer on 15 films. For those who are listening to the podcast who don't know the insider lingo, don't really understand all the roles on a film set, and for those just starting out, can you explain the role of a producer on a film?
Absolutely, yes. And I think that it even for people who do know a lot about filmmaking, producer can be an ambiguous role. So, there's no problem if that's, if you start out not necessarily knowing. And I think the roles of a producer can really, really be up to the producer themselves. Like, I can tell you about what I do, which is as a producer, I really like to come in early and help with the development of a project. Sometimes it could be just an idea, sometimes it could be a script, and then the director or the writer will meet up with me and we'll take a look at the idea. We'll workshop it a little bit. I usually like to be involved and sort of supporting the writer and the director, get the idea on its feet. Um, and yeah, and then from there, I do all the financing. So I'll again collaborate with the writer, the director to put together grant applications. Here in Quebec, we have a lot of grants. So that's how I've done the majority of the fundraising for all the projects that I've worked on. And they can be a bit intimidating because they're like these long, my phone fell, it's fine. They can be these really long documents that you have to prepare, budgets, and basically trying to prove to these stakeholders that you have what it takes to make a really good project. And then after that, we're in production or pre-production. So then we go through and we break down the script and we figure out who are the actors that we need, what's the location, where are we going to be spending our money. On production, I like to be on set and making sure everything runs smoothly. In post-production, I'm making sure that the edit is going as planned, and that we hit all our milestones. And then at the very end of the project, we go into distribution. And I like to also be involved there and to help people find festivals that they want to go to, see if they want to partner with another distributor or if they want to do it themselves or just between us. I would say as a producer, like, I'm very production focused, so I tend to be enormously present in pre-prod and prod, and then distribution, the post-production and distribution, I kind of rely more on the director to like get their project finished.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's so much. And I think that even extends beyond what most people would consider normal for the role, right? But
Yeah.
with that, though, it's so that work is so important. And as a filmmaker, it is paramount that you have someone to handle this for you, because I know everyone. I think there's a misconception, especially for newer filmmakers first starting out, that to be an auteur means to wear every hat, right? And that's just not the case, and it's completely unreasonable. And if you try and do that, I cannot tell you how much more more stress you're putting on yourself and how miserable it will be to make that project. Film is a collaborative art on so many fronts, and this is a big part of it, especially if you're making something that you plan on sharing outside of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
One of the things you spoke about was a finance script breakdown, which
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many people's sets I've gone on. When I was first starting out, I made the same mistake, but I've been to sets where people are getting paid, like there is a budget, and they did not go through and line item through the script hey, we don't, we are going to need this, we are going to need this location, we are going to need, and it just no matter how much pre-production you have on a film, of course there's always going to be challenges you run into. But whether that challenge is a speed bump or a mountain, I think 100% depends on your preparation beforehand. So having
Absolutely.
Right. So having a producer is such an important role. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects you've produced and gone on with them, where they've gone after the film festival circuit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, the first feature that I produced was called Bleed With Me. And now that project is on Shudder and on, I think, iTunes and Amazon as well. And so we were able to get distribution for this film. And my role on that project, I was one of a few producers. And my role was very much in the pre-production, the financing, and the production. And then we had someone that came in a bit later that did a bit more of the sort of marketing. Um, but yeah, that was a crazy project. And it was the first feature. We had a very small grant. The budget was, I think, 150,000 Canadian. And yeah, it was
Wow.
like a big endeavor and it was
Yeah.
very ambitious. And so we shot in the, the very harsh Quebec winter at a little cabin. It was a horror film. And it was hell. It was hell. And I think that once you go through your first feature, especially your first low budget feature, you can pretty much handle absolutely anything after that because we just dealt with any kind of like, I don't know, bad thing that can happen happens and you have to just carry on. And that's kind of what a producer really does is doesn't matter what the situation is. Like you have to just keep going and you have to take care of people. And, in this case, we had 80 centimeters of snow. We had cars getting stuck on the way. The location was snowed in. So I'm like, great, let's get some toboggans and an electric winch. And we're going to just winch up all of our supplies and even an actor who had a broken leg. And like, you just find a way to make it work. And what I like to do is like, no matter how crazy the situation is, I really try and put the crew first. And like, making films is hard. So you want to try and make people feel as comfortable as possible under the circumstances. So those toboggans had blankets in them, and there was hot coffee on the set when they got there. So, a lot of it is your attitude and, oh, the well froze. Okay, well, like there's no water anymore. Let's get these big things of water and lug them up every day and da 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 da. Like it goes on and on and on. And I feel like so long as your people are okay, then you'll make a good film.
100%. 100%. And I can't agree more that it's making people comfortable on set is a hard job. I think it's vastly underestimated how hard that can be, especially when you're shooting in a frozen tundra and have to, fight against the elements and, whatever with the location. But that's definitely one thing I learned early on was that morale on set is just as important as anything else because it's going to affect your project more than not having a location you want. It's going to,
100%.
through every part of it. So yeah, doing that and having someone be there whose focus is like, okay, things are not looking good here. How can I creatively, if not fix the situation, at least ease the circumstance of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, no, it is. It's so important, and that's such a wonderful thing. So, okay, so this film's on Shudder.
Yeah.
But gosh, you really just stepped into the gauntlet with your first project. A bigger budget, a remote location.
It was a really ambitious first feature for sure. But I had done shorts before, and I've done a lot of shorts since. So, at the end of the day, it's not that different. It's just more days. So it's in some ways it's almost not as hard because with a short, you just have 3, 4 days and you have to get your whole film. And that's a huge challenge. Whereas like with a feature, if you can reshoot a scene or if you're lucky enough to have, like, your editor on set, or at least you can watch the footage, you can be like, oh, like, shit, we didn't get that. We really need that. And then you can be like, okay, well, on day 18, there's some space. Let's put it there. So in some ways, it's kind of easier.
Everything's spread out a little bit more. You are capturing more, but at the same time, yeah. I mean, and that goes so this is just a question for me, but
Yeah.
so when it goes to looking at scripts in pre-production and
Yeah.
then planning for locations, what has your process been like with that?
I mean, I'm a very ambitious producer. Like, I'm a very idealistic producer. So I tend to just think everything is possible. And it usually is. It's just a question of finding a way to do it. So, yeah, whenever I see, whenever I get a script or I'm helping someone with their script, I'm like, okay, well, we need a swimming pool. We need this, we need that. Um, there's always a way. There's always a way. So, like, for example, if you want a swimming pool, you can look in your municipality and like find out who is in charge of it, or you need a park. So then you find out that you have to contact the parks department. And like at one point I wrote a check to the Queen of England um, for a park. Because in Canada, it's like, I guess, the Commonwealth. And I had to make a check out to like Her Majesty's something something. Like, because who knows that that is a national park, and as a national park, it's for the 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 Commonwealth or whatever. I had no idea before, but the thing is, you can usually figure it out. And so I tend to tell people not to be scared of locations. I think sometimes people are scared, but once you start, you can almost always find a way. Something to be careful of is definitely number of locations, though, because I think, as you know, like, the more times you move locations, the more time you lose from actually shooting. So I'm like, if you cannot ever consolidate or try and have, just one really great location, or one location where you can do multiple setups, it's better.
100%. 100%. That's wonderful advice. Um, yeah, wow. I guess I didn't think about the Commonwealth of Canada and how you would
Yeah,
have to write a check to the Queen. That's so funny.
yeah. The late queen. I guess now it would be the
The late
king.
Queen. Yeah, rip. Um, so okay, all right. This is wonderful. Do you have, before we move more to your work as a director and the work you have upcoming, um, do you have any advice? Because some of our listeners will obviously be in Canada, but some of them may be in the US. And I know there is a plethora of arts grants through more private institutions than the
Yeah.
federal government necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, but do you have any advice when it comes to applying for grants?
Definitely. I think as a producer, that's one of the main things that I've really worked on. And I've been writing grants for over a decade. I wrote grants for 3 years and got nothing when I was still in film school, just to practice, because grant writing is its own skill, and it just takes practice and it takes time. But then once you get good at it, you can really get into the flow. And so since my kind of first years where I knew I was not going to get it, but I just applied anyway, just to get to learn the ropes. And then since then, I've had an amazing success rate with my films. And I've gotten, I think, 80% of the grants I applied for, or even more,
Wow.
because I really know what they want. And the thing is, like, every funder is different, and they're going to be looking for different types of things. And, it's so there's no one size fits all, but I would say it's really, really important to look into that grant, look into what kind of projects they funded in the past, subscribe to their newsletter. Just be aware of what kind of thing that they're doing. And so you can kind of position your application. So, it's going to be appealing to them. So I think just like kind of getting to know who is doing the funding is really important. And then also, um, just making a compelling case for your film to be funded. And sometimes it's like, it's not enough for it to just be good. It has to be something that they specifically cannot say no to. Like, if you say, oh, I'm making a film and it's like going to be really cool because I'm going to shoot it in this neat way. And then this person has dreams and then they wake up from the dreams. But then is it really a dream? Like, that might actually be cool, but it's really hard for someone to like really latch onto. But if you say like, okay, well, this is a local grant and it's what city are you in again, Neil?
We're just north of Detroit. So
North Detroit.
yeah.
So if you're like, oh, well, actually, I'm making a horror film and it is about, and you're applying to a local grant, like something like a Detroit Arts Council or initiative, like this is about, the history of our city and how, like, you can really position it, even if your film doesn't have anything to do with that, like you can really try and play up that local aspect and be like, this is a groundbreaking project that is going to cast new light on the identity and landscape of our city. Like, that's just one example, but you have to keep it very, very relevant. And you're not trying to prove to someone this is good. You're trying to prove to someone like this is important for you to know right now.
Right, right. It's very much knowing your audience. I mean, when you think about applying for jobs, it's very much the cover letter where you want to look up the company beforehand and, it's not the CV, it's the personal part of it, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's very interesting because even if, your film doesn't necessarily have everything to do with the area you're shooting in or the area you're from, applying for those grants is like, well, we are so attached to this area because the people, the crew, the cast, the locations, whatever that may be, are in this area. And I think that's great advice for people starting out with grant writing. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, of course, of course. And I mean, just also like that's sort of the main gist of it. But then the other things you tend to just get practice as you go along, and you'll notice that, grants always ask for the same things. They always ask for the creative intentions. They always ask for a budget. And so the more that you check these boxes, it's the same, like you said, as applying for a job. You'll notice that people ask for the same things over and over again. And you can kind of find what your own take is on each of those items. And then, if ever you get the opportunity to find someone who has gotten that grant in the past and ask if you can see their application, because a lot of the time you can get some tips from looking at a successful one.
Very, very good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So to clarify for anyone who hasn't gone through through the application process or made a grant, when you request funding through a grant, you are looking for the base money to make a film, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's
Basically,
not,
yeah.
you're not looking at what you can sell it for, right? Where I have heard some people say, oh, well, I'll just apply for grants and I can make money off of grants. No, this is,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
you don't make money off that
yeah,
usually. I mean, if you're smart, you do, but I'm not
right.
smart like that. I tend to put all the money toward making the film, and
Yeah,
I usually defer a huge part of my own rate just to get everything we can for the film, which is technically bad advice, but that's just it's the truth.
and I think especially for the audience for this, that's where everyone I've talked to is at, right? It is
Yeah.
like, hey, if I can sell something, eventually get it distributed, make money off of it, great. But
Yeah.
all of everyone at this level and even, most people, I would say, at a level below where you're at, where they haven't worked with six-figure budgets, right? Um, I think, at this level, anyone who's in it is in it for the passion, right? And you are
100%.
someone who's in it for the passion of it, which totally tracks with, yeah, all right, well, I'll take a little bit of a pay cut so we can get, the location for an extra day, or we can get something cool with special effects makeup or like whatever, right? No, I think that's wonderful. And as, as someone who loves film, like, yeah, of course you're going to do that. I think that's wonderful. All
That's
right.
it. But at the same time, over time, you do want to be able to start paying yourself. So, when again, ideally, as you progress through your career, the amount that you're deferring should be coming lower and lower as you professionalize. So, you might start out by being like, I don't need to get paid at all. But by the end, you might need to say, I really need that 10% of the budget to just cover my time and my expenses. So, you have to kind of to allow yourself to progress toward eventually making a living.
100%. 100%. No, that is very true. That is very true. All right. So, like I said earlier, you co-directed the shorts Monster Dyke and Don't Text Back with Kay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about working on those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so when Kay and I met, we were in film school and I don't know if she told you this story as well, but we were both working a lot on other people's projects. She was doing a lot of effects. I was doing a lot of producing. And, it kind of took a while for us to actually connect and find each other, and we fell in love. And, when we realized how much we had in common, as partners, but also artistically, we were like, we need to start making things together to really focus our collaboration and our work as being, important and worthwhile, and to continue supporting other projects, but then also to have something that we can really show people to say, this is the kind of film we want to make as a duo. And so we actually conceived of Don't Text Back by just saying, like, we want to make a calling card film. So we want something that's highly accessible, that's funny, that feels relevant, and that we can film for $1,000 in our apartment. And so we did that, and that we used those constraints to write a script and, pull together our friends to make a crew. And I think we made a really funny film. Like, it came out it was very on topic in the year that it came out, and people really liked the horror and the comedy. And so with that, we were able to really kind of launch ourselves as, a creative force. And it went really, really well. And we got to do a lot of festivals, and we got to do some interviews and some press, and make some, like, meet other filmmakers who are doing the same type of films. So that was amazing. And then, yeah, with Monster Dyke, it was the pandemic. We were like, we need to make another film. So what can we do that doesn't involve any human beings touching each other? And we thought, well, how about a monster fucking movie with a puppet and a human? And it was great. We filmed it in one night in our
That only took
studio.
one night to film?
Yeah, but it was all night. Like, we
Okay,
finished at 6 a.m.
got it.
But essentially, yeah. And we were limited in a way because we shot on film. Like, we shot on a Bolex camera and black and white film stock. So that was really fun. And so we only purchased about 5 minutes worth of film stock, and because it was expensive. And
Sure.
we just didn't really want to spend money. We just were literally just being like, we want to make something. We don't care if nobody watches it. We're feeling cooped up. It's the pandemic. We really need to make a film just for our own sanity. So we'll just get crazy and do whatever we want. And bought 5 minutes worth of film stock. And the film is like 4.5 minutes. So we used almost everything that we shot. And so we were kind of limited in how many takes you can do, because I was like, well, we're running out of film. So
Right, right. No, absolutely. That's so That's so interesting because yeah, to shoot that on film like during the pandemic, that's a challenge. That's putting a challenge on a challenge, right? The challenge of shooting during
Yeah.
the pandemic, and then also we only have so much film to shoot with, unlike, everyone shooting on digital where there's
Yeah.
an
You
abundance.
have infinite takes. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Wow. That's that's very cool. And it's one of those shorts where like you can tell you guys had so much fun making it. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very
We
much
loved it.
it feels like that, right? Like it's one of those things where you watch it and you're like, "Oh, they had so much fun making this." Which I think is wonderful. Um with Don't Text Back, and I talked to Kay about this a little bit, but it is, you said, and that makes more sense, where you said this, we wanted to make a calling card film, right?
Yeah.
Because Don't Text Back and the rebrand are very much in like the same style, the same voice, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. And it's not, remind me of the actress's name who's
Nancy
involved.
Webb.
Nancy Webb, and I
Yeah.
talked with Kay about this, but Nancy's comedic timing and just overall is phenomenal. She's
I know. We
very
always
fun to
say like
watch.
we're just like Nancy's a genius. She's an incredible writer, she co-wrote the rebrand with Kay, and so like, and even in Don't Text Back, there's so much of the jokes are her writing. Like she's so fantastic and so funny. I leave a lot of the comedy to Kay and Nancy. Like I appreciate jokes, but I'm not a comedian. But
No,
I absolutely love that Kay and Nancy share that, and I think it brings so much to all of the work that we do together.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, so side note, real quick. By the time this episode comes out, will be after the Salem Horror Fest, which Kay and I had talked about a little bit. Um, do you where are you guys at with getting this out? Is there any updates, or
Nothing that
because
I can share officially, unfortunately, but I am saying we're actively seeking distribution, and we have some interesting conversations going on, but are
wonderful.
always open to more because we really want to get this film out there, and we just want to find like the absolute best distribution partners that we can to make sure that as many people as possible can see the movie.
100%, 100%. And yeah, whenever that happens, please keep me updated so I can update anyone who's listening or watching this podcast, because I want to share this movie with as many people as I can. I loved it when I got to see it, down at the Queer Fear Festival in North Carolina last year. It was so much fun. So definitely keep an eye out. I also, I understand that you are in production on another short film.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually in post
Oh,
on
wow.
a short that I did write, direct, and produce, which I don't, like you said earlier, I don't recommend doing all those jobs to everybody. But I figured, I've directed a lot, I produced a lot. I think I can do the triple threat thing on this one, and it did go very well. So
Well,
there was no
I was
disasters
speaking from a
there.
place of inexperience for people who are more
Totally, and that's
inexperienced.
it. 100%. And so I'm just saying, like, just because I did those things doesn't mean that anybody should, like, even experienced people. But I also tend to, like to keep my projects like as close to home as possible. So it felt kind of easier for me. Because also I sort of sneakily, I'm like, I like the fact that no one can tell me no. So I went that avenue.
Right,
And
right.
so my project is, yeah, it's called Manic, and it is a short film that I funded through the Canada Council for the Arts, and it's a $60,000 budget. I'm giving all the producing specs first, anyway, and And then I worked with a local team, and we shot here in Montreal last summer. And it's essentially about a manic pixie dream girl who has aged now into like a somewhat feral, quietly insane 40-year-old who's still living with her ex-TA boyfriend. Um, and their relationship has rotted from the inside out. And she's kind of at a standstill. She's given up on her dreams of being a visual artist in order to support him and his art. And so the film is just about the moment where she snaps and she turns him into an art. So it's very, very gory, very body horror. It's like absolutely unhinged.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait
Thank
to see
you.
it. No, that sounds like so much fun. So you shot it last summer.
Yeah.
How big was your crew on it?
So we had, I think, 16.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I tend to
Decent.
always work with that size. Yeah, it's kind of the bare minimum to do things that are somewhat ambitious.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about like your favorite horror movies, books, media, whatever. Because I'd love to hear some of your influences, going into this project, but just with the other work I've already seen.
For sure. I mean, I think I have so many favorite films, of course, like so many of us do, but I usually say Carrie is my favorite, the 1970 Brian De Palma film. I just find it a perfect movie in so many ways. I think it's so formally like strong and innovative, but also always in service of like creating a really strong experience. I love like the touch of melodrama, like the dark melodrama of the relationship with a mother. Um, I love the split screen. I love everything about it. And I just think like that's a perfect film.
It's a wonderful film. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
and
lot.
it's something, and there's like a reason that, so many like big budget films still are do homages, I'll say,
Yeah,
to different sequences or shots or specific scenes. If you haven't watched the Brian De Palma Carrie in a while, I highly suggest going back, really looking at it, because uh, it's very much the idea of film as like every frame is a picture, right? Like every frame
yeah,
is a portrait.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, beautiful. What what do you think about the newly announced Mike Flanagan TV series adaptation that they just announced?
I haven't actually followed it that much. I've seen a couple of things online promoting it. I do like Mike Flanagan. I like actually some of his earlier films. I think he did like Oculus and something else. I actually really liked Oculus. I thought it was great. And then his other series, I think, have some really amazing parts as well, but I have sort of like fallen off the train. I was pretty devout at the beginning with the Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass.
Mid
Um, I loved that.
yeah. So I think like Midnight Mass from a storytelling perspective, incredible, immaculate.
Yeah,
I think it's a wonderful story, and I know that's like a story he wanted to tell for years, and he finally got to do it. And I
yeah,
think it is told very well. The acting's very good. I think for me, after like Haunting of Hill House, I was like, oh, Mike Flanagan, this is going to be horror. And
yeah,
then none of the rest of the series I would consider horror.
yeah,
They're very melodramatic series. I
yeah,
mean, Bly Manor is a tragedy.
yeah,
Not like the actual thing, but the story is
yeah.
just so
It
tragic and
is.
so sad, and I was not
Yeah,
expecting that. But you got, yeah, Bly Manor and the Midnight Mass, and then blanking
the
on the
one,
one.
the one with the kids dying. I couldn't watch. I didn't watch it because I was worried that it would upset me because it's like all these kids with cancer or something, and I was like, oh, I can't. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna
very
go.
upsetting. It's very
Yeah, like
upsetting.
that's why I like horror, so I don't have to engage with this type of topics.
Right, right.
Like life is sad enough. Like I just want something scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He did, if I'm not mistaken, he did the sequel to the like Ouija movie.
Oh,
The
okay.
and that one, because I didn't watch it until like years after it came out because I found out it was him. Phenomenal.
Oh, it's good.
Honestly, he's got, I mean, I think his calling card is very much spooky eyes that glow or do something, right? And he
Yeah.
uses it a lot. It's like, I think it's called like Ouija 2 or Origin of Evil or something.
Okay.
Um, but as far as like a more mainstream horror film goes that was probably released in like January or something, it's a solid like I was like, "Oh, there's some good sequences in this." So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, I
Great. I'm gonna watch it now.
yeah, absolutely. But that all right, so just like speaking about that, that's I think that's interesting because we talk about like the melodrama and less of the terror or the horror of it, right? And
Yeah.
to adapt Carrie through that lens, I,
Mm-hmm.
I think will be very interesting because it is so much. I mean, the original story is
Yeah.
very much about being, it's about being a misfit and how terrible
Yeah.
that poor girl is treated. So, yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, and I think that that's something that I hope is preserved in the series because I tend to find that what I like about the original Carrie and the melodrama there is that it's not just drama, it's melodrama. Like you have Piper Laurie in her black robes, like, and it really it hits camp in like the best way. And I think that that is a really good mesh for horror. Um Whereas I find when it's kind of not extreme enough, it can kind of like put a wet blanket over the horror. So I'm very particular. I think Mike Flanagan is more like the wet blanket approach, but that it was very well done in Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass. So it worked because it was so well done. But if I find sometimes like if it's not as well done, you just get like this sort of dampening because by too much focus on like the drama and not enough on the horror, like the high, the high feelings, the highs and the lows.
thank you for clarifying that because I think that's a wonderful point and I completely agree. Camp and horror are like a perfect mix, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, in that, I think that makes sense. Like looking at your work that I've seen, right? Is there is a campiness to both of those that's very apparent.
Yeah.
But you're so right, and I think that's like, um, I think that ties into the whole like elevated horror discussion that's been happening for 10 years,
Yeah.
where and some of it or some films that people classify as that like are truly scary and like I like those a lot, but then there's other ones like you said where that wet blanket of just whatever drama it is that cuts off any truly scary moments like at the knees, right?
Yeah.
Or they focus so much on the sorrow of a situation that they lose any tension for the fear of it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think like a big part of what I enjoy in horror and what I seek out in horror is catharsis. So I think that's definitely something that a good horror movie should offer. And I think if people get too rooted in the sort of the gloominess of a situation that and you don't have an outlet or you don't have a catharsis, then to me it's moving away from horror. And it might still be a good film, but it's for me it's not a horror film.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Um, okay, so let's move on to, all right, so we've talked a bunch about what you excel at, right? Um, because you are very talented in the roles you've taken on and you have the experience to back that all up. What are some obstacles when it comes to the production process or just filmmaking in general that you're still finding your way through?
I mean, I think at this point, um, the production process itself is just becomes easier and easier. Like the more projects that you do, the easier it becomes, and you really do start to just develop a trust in yourself that almost everything is figure outable. So at this point, I feel really, really confident and happy with, being able to evaluate a script and figure out what are the challenges, how are we going to overcome them. I'm hugely optimistic and, sometimes to a fault, but I think that I always have that energy of like, let's bring this to life, let's do it. And I think that that is all going very, very well. I think the biggest obstacle that so many of us have as artists is really just time. Time is the killer because, I don't do this full time. I'm working now in production accounting now for film still, but that's how I'm making a living right now. and it's a really really demanding job as well. So it's hard, and I think as artists we suffer from not being able to do what we love all the time. And we have to kind of find a way to make things work unless you're independently wealthy, in which case enjoy, you're blessed, have a
Right,
great
right.
time. But that's not my situation. So I think just finding time and then kind of trying your best to be as optimistic as you can be and still preserve like the fire of like wanting the fire in your belly of wanting to do something. That all I've never lost it, never had a problem with it. However, the follow through and being able to, be like, okay, well, I'm actually stuck in post and I have to work a 60-hour week. That's a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge. And I think everyone is there at some point. And to kind of deal with the boring parts of making a film and doing music clearance for that takes months. These are
Right.
things that are really easy to fall behind on, but they're really, really important because at the end of the day, you put so much work into your projects, you have to finish it and you have to get it out there. But I've been very blessed to work with Kay and to live with her, and she's super diligent. So she is very, like, she's so good at making sure that we finish everything, whereas I tend to always be starting new things.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's very relatable. Because, I mean, obviously for anyone who has made a film, it is, it's exciting and, the lights and the camera and to be on set and get that, but, nobody romanticizes, trying to hyper focus on editing and forgetting to eat for a whole day while you're trying to fix, one blip in the footage or, it's not as,
100%. It's not glamorous. It
no,
sucks.
no, no, but that's good. And also like there's I think just for any creative person, there's always that pull for like, okay, well, we got this done, we're working on it, we'll get it finished up, what's next? Right? Like
Yeah.
like where's my and keeping, having
Mhm.
having someone else or the innate ability to keep your eye on the prize and like, okay, this has to get done. Just
Yeah.
because the production is done doesn't mean that we're done working on this. And you owe it, more than anything. Like, sure, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the story you want to tell, but more than anything, you owe it to the other people that have helped
You
you
gotta
make
finish
something,
it.
right? Yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta finish it. You have to. You're not allowed to not finish it.
I love that. You hear that? All right.
Um,
Anyone listening, you're not allowed to not finish things.
and
So if
if
you've
I
been,
can do it, you can do it, because I hate finishing things, but I have to go through that annoyance and discomfort, and you just have to. Period.
Full stop. That's it. That is it. All right. Well, that thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and share all of your experience and some really great tips of the trade with everyone. Where can people find you, your production company?
So, well, thank you, first of all, because you are so sweet to have me on here and make me feel like such an expert. It's very kind of
You
you.
are.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I think that's the other thing, is we always forget, kind of, we're so busy doing our thing that sometimes you sort of forget that you're like, wow, okay, yeah, actually I've done quite a few things over the years.
Right, right.
Um, so this has been a really nice morale boost for me as well.
Good.
And yeah, and if anyone wants to connect with me, my production company is called True Sweetheart Films. I have a website, truesweetheartfilms.com. And my Instagram is True Sweetheart with an underscore at the end. So True Sweetheart underscore. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. And yeah, I'm always like specifically looking to connect with other queer filmmakers in the genre space. So my messages are open for anyone that falls under the sort of LGBT genre umbrella, and I do accept submissions for projects from people in that group, and just because that's what I know best. So feel free to reach out if that's you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for offering that to our listeners. And yeah, keep me updated on the rebrand. Keep me updated on Manic. I would love to see it whenever it starts showing. Any festivals you guys are going to be in, we'll update it on our site, and all that info to contact Mariel, I will put in the show notes. Thank you again so much, Mariel.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. Honestly, as a filmmaker myself, Mariel's insights into production and grant writing are gold. Mariel, I just want to say thank you again, and sorry it took so long to get this out. You can follow Mariel on Instagram at truesweetheart_ and check out her work at truesweetheartfilms.com. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we're just getting started at Midnight Horror Picture Show, and I can't wait to share the interviews we have lined up over the coming months. If you would like to be considered as a guest on Midnight Horror Picture Show, email us at midnighthorrorpictureshow@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at Midnight Horror Picture Show, and please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us, and turn on notifications so we don't get lost in the fray. Moving forward, we will be releasing one episode monthly, which feels reasonable as I juggle multiple ongoing projects and a new baby. Speaking of, if you haven't yet, check out our sister show on the Here I've Podcast Network, Dead Pine Archives, where we deep dive into folklore and cryptid tales with new episodes weekly. Until then, stay spooky and keep supporting indie horror.